Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 12 based on novel. So let's start. This was an extremely large and vast hall. One side turned blurry when one tried to look at the edge of its borders. The entire hall seemed to be in a state before the birth of chaos. Bang! At this moment, two figures were dashing in this hall. In the next moment, they suddenly crossed blows with each other. A punch and a kick clashed as a powerful force erupted like a volcano. However, upon closer inspection, one would realize that the appearance of the two figures were actually that of Lin Dong. Moreover, the strangest thing was that both of them were exactly the same. However, one appeared full of life, while the other appeared indifferent. In fact, the latter's jet black eyes did not even hold the slightest emotion. However, it was clear that the both of them looked similar. However, that indifferent-looking Lin Dong was clearly even stronger. Both parties exchanged sharp blows. That punch quickly broke through Lin Dong's defenses before that ferocious fist mercilessly smashed heavily on Lin Dong's chest. A force spluttered out from it and the fist penetrated through the latter's heart like a blade. Boom! Wild and violent strength exploded from Lin Dong's body as his entire body was torn apart. Waves of terrifying pain spread within his body. Although Lin Dong's body was being ripped apart in this cruel fashion, he did not die. Instead, he sensed his consciousness floating upwards. The Lin Dong in front, who had torn him apart, did not move. The doppelgangers within the endless divine prison is divided into the heaven, earth and man stages. You are currently unable to defeat even the weakest man-stage doppelganger. It seems like you have indeed neglected your mental energy cultivation for far too long. A light figure appeared in the mid-air. Yang looked at Lin Dong's gathering consciousness and commented in a faint voice. Lin Dong parted his lips and laughed bitterly. This mental doppelganger has full knowledge of my attacks. Moreover, it is even stronger than me. It isn't easy to defeat it. Additionally, that fellow's attacks are far too vicious. This endless divine prison is a place where my owner trained his mental energy back then. Although you will not end up truly dying if you are torn apart here, that pain will be magnified many times over before it is transmitted back to your mind. As long as your mental energy body is able to endure it, you will be able to continuously revive in this place. Yang said. He looked towards Lin Dong's consciousness, which had gathered together. If you are unable to even endure this little amount of pain, there is no need to continue this mental energy training. This is because the future sessions will be even more painful. You should be aware that no strength in this world comes for free. Lin Dong's consciousness inhaled a breath of air and said, "There is no need for you to tell me this. Please continue." A ripple spread over Lin Dong's consciousness. After which, light gathered and a mental energy body was once again formed. Slowly clenching both of his palms, soon after, he lifted his head to look at the mirror image which had rushed over again. This time around, he did not say anything unnecessary. His foot stomped on the ground and his body rushed forward. Bang bang! The two figures clashed violently again. However, Lin Dong merely managed to endure over a dozen exchanges this time around, before the mirror image blasted his head apart with a punch. Lin Dong's consciousness continued to float around. Meanwhile, a vague intense panting noise was emitted. Contained within that voice was pain, which could not be hidden. Again. Lin Dong clenched his teeth. His body took shape once again as he charged forward. Bang! Bang! Low and deep noises continuously sounded in the hall. Those two figures were like tireless wild beasts, as they collided with each other again and again. Sharp fist wind erupted and a deafening rushing wind sound appeared. Lin Dong's mental energy body was continuously blasted apart by that indifferent doppelganger. However, he did not feel defeated because of this seemingly meaningless attack. His consciousness churned and many mental energy bodies were continuously formed. After which, he charged forward like a ferocious man with murderous red eyes. Perhaps it was because of this intense pain which caused Lin Dong's consciousness to become a lot dimmer. Lin Dong did not detect the light over his body sinking deeper within each time his mental energy body was reformed. The time that the doppelganger took to defeat him was also quietly growing. This place did not contain any yuan power. There was only the mountain-like tough determination. 435. Yang calmly watched the mental energy body, which was formed again and again. It could feel that Lin Dong's consciousness was already becoming quite blurry. However, the mental energy body that he formed had unknowingly become as sturdy as steel. The reason why Lin Dong was able to endure was entirely because of his tenacity. His tenacious nature also caused Yang's usually picky eyes to reveal some admiration. A person's physical body can be weak, but if his mind was weak as well, this person was destined to never become a truly strong person. Clearly, Lin Dong did not belong in this category. Yang might have been in a slumber in the past, but he still saw how this tender youth back then walk out from the small Great Yang Empire and reached his current level step by step. Moreover, this was not his final destination. Yang was able to sense that this young man, who was not considered exceptionally powerful now, would ultimately become so powerful that even it would choose to submit to him in the future. Bang! Another low and deep noise spread from below. Yang glanced over before both of his eyes narrowed. He could see that the hand of the mirror image below had once again penetrated Lin Dong's heart. However, Lin Dong's fist had also blasted apart the mirror image's head at that same instant. A miserable act of perishing together. The mirror image fluctuated. After which, it slowly disappeared. Lin Dong's body also fell. It shattered upon smashing onto the ground, and turned into a consciousness that drifted upwards. The scene returned to the training hall within Deep Lightning Mountain. Lin Dong suddenly opened his tightly shut eyes. A frighteningly ashen expression was revealed as cold sweat continuously seeped out from his forehead. Both his hands were tightly clenched and the veins on his hands were exposed. Although his body did not suffer even the slightest damage, a frighteningly and intense pain surged over like floodwater, following the return of his mental energy back into his body. Lin Dong trembled as he forcefully endured the intense pain that had invaded his body. This continued on for half an hour before he finally relaxed in a limp fashion. The 8 masters back then also went through the same training. Yang appeared and said, "In that case, where am I ranked based on my result?" Lin Dong wiped off the cold sweat and casually asked. 9th. The corner of Yang's mouth twitched. "That is the last place," Lin Dong smilingly said. Back then, the Devouring Master failed 100 times before defeating the first human-ranked doppelganger and is ranked 2nd. Yang paused before continuing. The top rank belongs to the Ice Master. She failed 11 times. Lin Dong's body stiffened. He involuntarily nodded. Amazing. Only after having fought with the mirror image would one understand just how powerful it was. Yet, that Ice Master only failed for merely 11 times before she was able to defeat it. Her talents could not be described by the phrase ultimate talent. It's no wonder she was regarded as the person who will most likely reach the level of the symbol ancestor. Yet, Lin Dong failed over 800 times before he managed to defeat the doppelganger. The difference between them caused Lin Dong to feel ashamed. However, this is hardly representative. Your foundation is much weaker than them. Furthermore, they were taught personally by my owner. On the other hand, you are mostly self-taught over the years. If you receive the same instruction and training condition, it is likely that your results will be much better. Yang said. Perhaps. Lin Dong parted his lips. However, there was not the least amount of defeat in his eyes. He lifted his head to look at the huge light plate in the sky. A fiery heat rose into those dark black eyes of his. However, I am stubborn down to my bones since I was born. Hence, I do not wish to lose anyone. I will continue training tomorrow. Yang was clearly startled upon hearing Lin Dong's words. After all, this training was extremely tortuous and one would typically require a few days to recuperate after each session. However, it did not stop Lin Dong, after witnessing the latter's excited eyes. It merely shook his head slightly. A pleased expression flashed deep within its eyes. During the subsequent month, Lin Dong did not even take a step out of this training hall. He would enter the endless divine prison every day and receive that death-like tempering. He was aware that he had to make up for his negligence towards mental energy. In order to do so, he had to put in a great effort. Thankfully, following the intense and painful training, he was also able to gradually sense that the mental energy in his Niwan palace was surging and solidifying at quite a pleasing speed. According to this speed, it was only a matter of time before he broke through to the advanced divine symbol master. During this 1 month, Little Flame was still undertaking a retreat. Moreover, Lin Dong hardly had the time to manage Deep Lightning Mountain as he was training his mental energy. Fortunately, Chen Tong and Huan Miao were much more reliable than the both of them. Hence, no overly major problems occurred under their management. During this past month, although they thought about calling Lin Dong, they chose to abandon their plans after sensing the frightening energy ripple being emitted from within the large hall. They could detect that Lin Dong was currently at a critical stage in his training. Therefore, they could only leave helplessly. 1 month swiftly passed amidst this training. Gradually, experts with Chen Tong's strength could vaguely feel that there was a frightening mental energy fluctuation slowly being emitted from within the training hall. However, while the energy that was being emitted from the training hall was becoming increasingly dense, rushing wind sound suddenly appeared in the sky outside of Deep Lightning Mountain. Subsequently, 2 figures arrived while walking on air. They were wearing green robes and those robes had a blood dragon symbol over it. A pressure was quietly radiated from them. Someone from Blood Dragon Hall has arrived. Demon Commander of Deep Lightning Mountain, why haven't you came out to receive us? 2 figures appeared outside of Deep Lightning Mountain. Their eyes turned downwards before an icy cold cry reverberated across this mountain range like a thunderous roar. An ice-cold cry wrapped in majestic yuan power reverberated endlessly across the sky above Deep Lightning Mountain like raging thunder. The entire Deep Lightning Mountain had clearly been disturbed by it. Immediately, many rushing wind sounds appeared, as numerous figures rose into the air. Their eyes cautiously stared at the 2 figures standing in the sky. Who are you? A powerful individual from Deep Lightning Mountain looked at the 2 green-robed figures with a grave expression as he demanded. Only the Demon Commander of Deep Lightning Mountain has changed. Don't tell me that you are now unable to even identify your true backer. The 2 green-robed figures laughed faintly. However, a chilling aura seeped out from their voices, causing the temperature of Deep Lightning Mountain to fall substantially. It is the 2 great commanders of Blood Dragon Hall. We are sorry that we have failed to receive you. Deep Lightning Mountain had become a little chaotic because of this commotion. Subsequently, a couple of figures flew out. Chen Tong's eyes hardened when he saw the 2 figures in the sky, but quickly greeted them with a chuckle. It is Metal Lion General Chen Tong. Oh. You managed to safely remain while the Demon Commander changed. It seems that your contributions were not small. The 2 green-robed figures looked at Chen Tong and laughed faintly. Chen Tong's expression slightly altered upon hearing those words. He was naturally able to hear the mockery within them. However, he did not dare to burst out in anger this time. After all, these 2 were not ordinary characters. Hence, all he could do was reply, "May I ask why the 2 great commanders have come to our Deep Lightning Mountain?" The Demon Commander is currently in cultivation seclusion. Cultivation seclusion? The expression of the green-robed man with a sharp and narrow chin sunk upon hearing this. He coldly cried out, "Call him out. We have come here to pass on a message from Lord Blood Dragon. I have heard that your new demon commander is the so-called General Yang from before, right?" The eyes of Chen Tong and Huan Miao behind him changed upon hearing the words, Lord Blood Dragon. It was likely that they were quite familiar with this great person whose name was known in this Beast War region for over 100 years. They were all great generals of Deep Lightning Mountain in the past. Naturally, they were aware of the relationship between Xu Shong and the Blood Dragon Hall. Chen Tong and Huan Miao exchanged glances. After which, they looked towards a training hall deep within the mountains behind them where frightening mental energy ripples were currently present. The person within did not show the slightest signs of leaving his seclusion. Great commanders, this is a very crucial time for the Demon Commander. Would it be possible to let me know if there are any important matter instead? I will help pass on the message once the demon commander leaves his seclusion. Chen Tong hesitated before recommending. His words had only just sounded when he suddenly detected a terrifying pressure sweep out from the two figures in front of them. An icy cold voice quickly followed. It seems that your new demon commander is really ignorant, asking my blood dragon hall to wait for him. Ha ha, even Xu Song does not have that capability. Since all of you have no intentions of calling him, it seems that the both of us will have to do so ourselves. The two green-robed men smiled coldly. Their bodies moved and they rushed towards the interior of Deep Lightning Mountain. Commanders, please stop. Chen Tong's expression changed drastically upon seeing this. A loud cry sounded as his body rushed forward. Humph! However, a cold snort was transmitted over just as he was about to move. Soon after, a huge light seal came whistling over and ruthlessly smashed at them. Bang! A terrifying ripple swept apart as Chen Tong and the rest were directly forced back. They appeared rather miserable as they staggered backwards. These two commanders of Blood Dragon Hall were experts who had long since made a name for themselves in the Beast War region. Both of them possessed the strength of the perfect profound death stage. Even if Xu Song was present, it would not be easy for him to fight the two of them alone. Hence, it was naturally difficult for them to stop these two individuals. The two commanders from Blood Dragon Hall barbarically charged into Deep Lightning Mountain. Their sharp eyes swept around them before pausing on the large hall that was giving off astonishing mental energy fluctuations. Lord Blood Dragon wishes to pass on a message. Why hasn't the new demon commander of Deep Lightning Mountain come out to receive his words? The two commanders' sharp eyes stared at the huge hall as their cold voices thundered, wrapping around the large hall. However, the training hall remained quiet in response to their shouting. Not the least amount of noise was emitted. Fury rose within the eyes of the two commanders when they saw this. They did not say anything as each threw a punch. Majestic Yuan power unfurled and ruthlessly struck the huge hall like a mountain. Given the strength of these two individuals, they could easily shatter a mountain if they attacked together, let alone a mere hall. However, just as the boundless Yuan power was about to touch the huge hall, an extremely powerful mental energy shockwave swiftly swept out and clashed against the ferocious Yuan power attack. Bang! A loud sound reverberated as many huge cracks spread around the large hall. The land shook and the mountain swayed. It was as though an earthquake had occurred. Surprise was revealed in the two commanders' eyes when they saw their attacks dispelled. A cold laughter quickly sounded. You do indeed have some ability. No wonder you were able to snatch the demon commander position from Xu Song. However, let the both of us see whether you will show yourself today. As these words faded, majestic Yuan power surged like floodwaters around the both of them. That momentum was quite shocking. Rumble. However, dark clouds suddenly rumbled and gathered in the sky as they were preparing to attack again. Silver snakes danced within the dark clouds as thunder boomed across the sky while accompanied by shocking ferocity. This is the Wind Lightning Trial. The two commanders looked the dark clouds gathering in the sky as they felt the frighteningly wild and violent strength within. Their eyes hardened as they spoke in astonishment. This Wind Lightning Trial is so powerful, it seems that his mental energy should be about to reach the advanced divine symbol master level. The new demon commander of Deep Lightning Mountain actually possessed such powerful mental energy. The two great commanders faced each other and frowned. Demonic beasts mainly focused on training their physical bodies and Yuan power. Other than certain special tribes, most demonic beasts were rather lacking in their mental energy cultivation. At this moment, Chen Tong and the others had also hurried over. Surprise flashed across their eyes as they looked at the activity in the sky. They were clearly aware of Lin Dong's strength. However, it was unexpected that the latter would have such accomplishments in mental energy cultivation. Rumble. Berserk thunderbolts gathered crazily within the thunder clouds while black clouds churned. In the next moment, a loud thunder was heard. A resplendent thunderbolt ferociously descended like a lightning dragon and struck the large hall below. Bang! While the thunderbolt whistled downwards, everyone suddenly saw a figure appear above the large hall. He lifted his head and looked at the violent thunderbolt, however, he he did not show any signs of avoiding it. Instead, both of his hands slowly parted. Lightning finally came pouring down and the large hall had turned into ashes in an instant. A seemingly bottomless pit appeared within everyone's sights. However, everyone ignored this. Their eyes contained some surprise as they looked towards the skinny figure in the air. Lightning whizzed past, but he was completely unhurt. It was as though the violent thunderbolt from earlier was completely ineffective against him. An uproar spread and the eyes of the two great commanders from Blood Dragon Hall hardened. The figure completely ignored the uproar from the surroundings. He lifted his head to look at the churning black clouds. Lightning seemed to flash in his pitch-black eyes as he slowly lifted his head and frowned. In the end, he softly said, "Disappear." The wildly churning thunder cloud suddenly stilled. Subsequently, everyone was stunned to see the thunder clouds, that contained extremely berserk energies, start to recede little by little. Next, it slowly scattered in front of everyone's eyes. It scattered? Chen Tong's group were dazed as they watched this scene. Their expressions appeared quite strange. They were naturally well aware of the wind lightning trial of a symbol master. Its power was terrifying. Yet, that overwhelming wind lightning trial from earlier had simply disappeared because of a word from Lin Dong? This was the first time that they had witnessed someone with such ability. The entire sky had become unusually quiet after the thunder clouds in the sky disappeared. Lin Dong gently patted his hands as a smile surfaced on his young face. After which, he looked towards the two green-robed figure, cupped his hands together and smilingly said, "Oh, it's friends from the Blood Dragon Hall. May I know why have you come to Deep Lightning Mountain? Are you the new demon commander of Deep Lightning Mountain?" The two commanders looked at Lin Dong and asked with a frown. "Ha ha, the new demon commander is my brother. However, he is currently in cultivation seclusion. You can tell me if there is anything you wish to say." Lin Dong laughed. The two great commanders exchanged glances upon seeing this. Perhaps it was because they had witnessed some of Lin Dong's ability earlier, but their attitude was no longer as unreasonable as before. They merely spoke in a faint voice. "Lord Blood Dragon is already aware of what has happened in Deep Lightning Mountain. However, he does not wish to comment about it." Lin Dong faintly smiled and nodded. "Nevertheless, Lord Blood Dragon has asked us to deliver a message. Is Deep Lightning Mountain still willing to regard Blood Dragon Hall as its leader?" The two commanders looked at Lin Dong with stern eyes. Lin Dong lifted his brow slightly. He immediately laughed. "Deep Lightning Mountain has only changed its commander. Everything else will remain the same." He did not have any intentions of fighting with Blood Dragon Hall for the position of leader. As long as it did not hurt their interests, Lin Dong could not be bothered about such things. The two great commanders nodded upon hearing this. There was an expression in their eyes that suggested that Lin Dong was at least aware of the situation. Since this is the case, hand over this year's tribute. The conditions are the same. It will be a total of 3 million Xian Yuan pills. Additionally, the divine item treasury will open again in slightly over a month. According to the rules, all the divine objects that Deep Lightning Mountain has obtained within 10 years must be handed to Blood Dragon Hall. The two commanders spoke indifferently. However, their voices gradually weakened. This was because they saw that Lin Dong's originally smiling face appeared to have become a little cold. With regards to the matter of Blood Dragon Hall being the leader, I have no objections. Lin Dong slowly lifted his head. His pitch-black eyes stared at the two great commanders of Blood Divine Hall. However, I do not have any Xian Yuan pills. My Deep Lightning Mountain doesn't even have enough divine objects. Hence, we will not be giving any away. Chen Tong's group gazed at the indifferent-looking Lin Dong and were immediately stunned. This person was indeed as overbearing as before. Lin Dong's faint voice drifted in the sky while the expressions of the two commanders from Blood Dragon Hall slowly became dark and solemn. "Ha ha, what boldness! Do you understand the implications of your words?" The green-robed man stared at Lin Dong darkly and laughed in a cold voice. "Do not believe that you have the qualifications to do as you please in the Beast War region just because you have defeated Xu Shong. The water here is much deeper than you think. The other Blood Dragon Hall commander also spoke. His voice contained ridicule that could not be hidden. Lin Dong smiled faintly. He crossed his fingers and stared at the both of them with a calm gaze. I am well aware of what I am saying. If you have any complaints, you can simply report it to that Heaven Dragon Demon commander. I have no objections with regards to him continuing to be the big boss in this region. However, I'm afraid that there is nothing to discuss if he wishes to have a slice of Deep Lightning Mountain's pie. Lin Dong was unwilling to fight for the big boss position, but given his character he would never allow Blood Dragon Hall to oppress and exploit him. Moreover, it involved divine objects. Even if the divine object obtained was not something he desired, it would still be able to greatly increase the battle potential of Deep Lightning Mountain. How could he possibly hand such items over? What arrogance! The two commanders of Blood Dragon Hall cried out in anger. Soon after, their eyes became dark and cold. However, I wonder if you have qualifications to make such a decision. I'm afraid that you will not be able to endure the fury of my Blood Dragon Hall when the time comes. Both of them looked towards Chen Tong's group after their voices sounded, but latter avoided their eyes. All of them were well aware of the relationship between Lin Dong and Little Flame. The latter would definitely not object to whatever Lin Dong wished to do. Moreover, they might not dare to openly comment about the attitude of Blood Dragon Hall, but they felt a great dissatisfaction in their hearts. They had witnessed many miracles from Lin Dong and were well aware that regardless of what this young man did, he would have definitely evaluated the matter first. Since he dared to offend Blood Dragon Hall with his words, it was likely that he had the confidence to deal with Blood Dragon Hall and was not afraid of them. It seems that your reputation in this Deep Lightning Mountain is quite high. However, since the both of us are here today, we do not have any intentions of returning empty-handed. Since the new demon commander is still in cultivation seclusion, we will bring you back to Blood Dragon Hall. He can come retrieve you once he leaves. The expressions of the two Blood Dragon Hall commanders became completely cold after witnessing the reaction of Chen Tong's group. Their eyes contained some killing intent as they looked at Lin Dong and slowly said, "Bang!" Yuan power surged as their voices sounded, sweeping out like a monstrous wave as a powerful pressure enveloped the entire Deep Lightning Mountain. Sirs, this is Deep Lightning Mountain. You are not allowed to act as you please. Chen Tong became furious upon seeing this. He waved his large hand and countless light figures shot out from below. Their eyes were alert as they stared at the two individuals. Humph! However, the two commanders from Blood Dragon Hall completely ignored Chen Tong. Their sinister eyes were fixed on Lin Dong. Subsequently, they moved, turning into two rays of black light that shot out at lightning speed. Grey light simultaneously gathered in their hands before turning into two unusually sharp black thorns. With a gentle wave of his hand, Lin Dong stopped Chen Tong's group, which was hurrying over to his aid, while his pitch-black eyes looked at the two extremely swift and fierce figures. The two figures appeared in front of Lin Dong in a split second as sharp black thorns shot out. They directly tore through space and came piercing towards Lin Dong while accompanied by a sharp bone-chilling iciness. The two black thorns were aimed at Lin Dong's throat. However, they suddenly stopped when they were around half an inch from their target. The slender fingers had unknowingly extended and grabbed the sharp black thorns like a metal pincers. Green scales had emerged on the fingers, causing the sharp black thorns, which could tear apart an advanced profound death stage expert, to be unable to cause Lin Dong any damage. You have actually come looking for others to act mightily with such meager ability? Aren't you a little too overconfident? Lin Dong lifted his head. He gazed at the two commanders from Blood Dragon Hall, whose expressions had altered, as he remarked with a faint smile. Chen Tong and the others felt their hearts tremble when they saw that Lin Dong's four fingers had managed to block the sharp attacks from the two commanders. You? The expressions on the faces of the two commanders of Blood Dragon Hall stiffened. It was likely that they rarely encountered situations where someone was able to receive their attacks barehanded. Moreover, this young man before them was only at the initial profound death stage. Looks like the rumors that the one who killed Shu Song is a human and not the new demon commander are true. The two commanders from Blood Dragon Hall stared at the young man before their eyes. Only then did they realize that this seemingly ordinary-looking fellow was actually a raging Azura. However, it isn't as easy to get rid of the two of us. Dark grey yuan power suddenly swept out from both of their bodies. Soon after, their bodies swiftly swelled at a shocking rate. Layers after layers of sharp scales grew from under their skin as a baleful aura gradually surged. Within a couple of breaths, the two great commanders had already turned into a half-lizard form. Sharp scale blades made from groups of scales grew on their backs. From a distance, they looked like cold-killing machines. Be careful, Lord Lindong. The both of them are from the demon lizard tribe, and their bodies even contain an extremely diluted dragon tribe bloodline. Hence, their physical bodies are extremely strong. The Chen Tong duo hurriedly cautioned upon seeing the changes of these two fellows. Hiss! Majestic ferocious light swept out from within the bodies of the two. Their eyes were ferocious and cruel as they stared at Lindong. Wrapped in mighty yuan power, those incomparably sharp claws penetrated through the space and ruthlessly clawed at Lindong's head. Lizard? Lindong lifted his brow. However, he did not choose to dodge. Green light surged on his arms and green scales appeared. However, these green scales appeared to have an additional trace of majestic and solemn aura in comparison to the grey scales on the bodies of the two. A deafening metallic sound spread. Sparks flew and a circular energy ripple that was visible to the naked eye swept out from the point of contact. Even space itself rippled and became distorted due to the force. What a powerful physical body! The two commanders of Blood Dragon Hall were forced a couple of steps back. Their eyes were shocked as they looked at Lindong's green-scaled fists. A faint ripple from the latter's body gave them a feeling of oppression. I'll let the both of you see the power of a true dragon. Lindong grinned at them. In the depths of his eyes, green light gathered into a dragon. Meanwhile, the green light around Lindong's body flared as numerous green dragon light tattoos appeared and tunneled into his skin. Lindong's skin pulsed as his body rapidly expanded. Green scales flickered and appeared while his arms and legs turned into dragon limbs. The scales seemed to conceal a sharpness within them while a frightening strength spluttered out. Half-dragon form. The expression of the two great commanders of Blood Dragon Hall immediately changed upon seeing Lindong's transformation. They could feel an immense pressure from the latter's body. This pressure was even stronger than the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander. This did not mean that Lindong's strength had surpassed the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander. Instead, it was the purity of his pressure that surpassed the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander. At this moment, however, Lindong did not give them any time to be shocked. He revealed an ice-cold smile towards the two as his body jerked. Quickly retreat. The pupils of the two suddenly shrunk as they withdrew together. Too slow. Laughter sounded behind them, causing both of them to be filled with terror as they tried to retreat. From the corner of their eyes, the commanders saw two huge dragon fists that seemed to contain a dragon roar as they soared towards them. Bang! However, the two were no pushovers. Even at this moment, they still managed to twist their bodies in a strange manner while crossing their arms as majestic yuan power swept out. Iron Lizard Wall. The space in front of the two seemed to have solidified as grey yuan power turned into a metallic wall while strange patterns swiftly emerged on it. A frosty expression surged within Lindong's eyes. Lightning suddenly surged in a stealthy manner and gathered on the dragon fists. Lindong's fists finally smashed ruthlessly onto the solid defense and a loud noise quickly sounded. At this moment, an indescribable power suddenly erupted like a volcano that had been suppressed for a long time. Cracks spread on the strong metallic wall in an instant. Soon after, it directly exploded apart in front of the shocked eyes of the two commanders from Blood Dragon Hall. The two figures catapulted backwards in a miserable fashion. After which, they violently shot into a mountain under the stunned eyes of Chen Tong's group. Their bodies were deeply embedded in the mountain wall. Lindong's expression was indifferent. Clearly, he had no intention of showing any mercy. He clenched his hand and green light gathered to form a spear. Slivers of lightning seemed to be gathering at the tip of the spear. Since you wish for an answer, this is the answer that I shall give you. A cold glint flashed across Lin Dong's eyes. The spear in his hand, which contained a frightening destructive force, shot towards the cracked mountain wall. The spear pierced through the sky at a shocking speed. In the next moment, it had reached the mountain wall. However, the space above the mountain suddenly cracked open just as the spear was about to ruthlessly penetrate the bodies of the two commanders. A huge blood-colored fist reached out and grabbed the spear. With a violent clench of its fist, the spear was shattered. "Brat, you are really bold. How dare you touch the men of my blood dragon hall?" A furious roar containing dense murderous intent was also emitted from the crack in space when the huge hand appeared. Heaven Dragon Demon Commander. The complexions of Chen Tong and the rest paled upon hearing this cry. At the same time, Lin Dong slowly narrowed his eyes as he stared at the crack in space. This video will end here.